Welcome back to another episode of the Worthy for 30 podcast. I am your host, Eric Tash. With me today is Jamie Hess, a podcast host, a TV personality, a fitness influencer, a former publicist. Welcome to the show, Jamie.
Thank you for having me.
Excellent. Yes, absolutely. So, Jamie, the way I like to, start this conversation, or usually start this conversation, is how you got to where you are today. You're the podcast host of the Gratitude Theology, and we mentioned a couple of guests that you and I both know. Most recently, I was listening to Alyssa Calver, of the founder and CEO of WeGotThis.org. But you have an incredible story of how you got to where you are today. So I would love for you to tell the audience your journey to where you are sitting.
Yeah, thank you so much, Eric. So yeah, and gratitudeology is, I trademarked the word because I just felt like the study and practice of gratitude is a thing, because we've kind of been sold this lie that a gratitude practice is just writing down 3 things in a gratitude journal. And while that is a great palate cleanser and will give you a great reset, and there's a lot of science that shows the neurochemistry of your brain can be changed by just simply doing that, it's not where it ends. And there's so much more about gratitude that is a practice. And if you practice it, you'll have a happier life. But how did I get to that awareness? How did I get to that knowing? Because let me tell you, I did not always have it. I was raised in Greenwich, Connecticut, well, in Westchester, New York, and then Greenwich, Connecticut. My parents got divorced when I was 10, so I ended up living in 2 different places. By loving parents, my mom is TV journalist Joan London, so she hosted Good Morning America for about 20. And, for all intents and purposes, I should have just had it should be easy. Your mom's on TV, you have a nice life, just be grateful, be grateful. Well, that's why I teach that telling people to just be grateful is not a terribly helpful directive. Yeah, it's like, yeah, dude, I know I should be grateful. And by the way, that makes me feel even worse when you tell me, "Oh, you have a nice life, you should just be grateful for it." And I can't find that gratitude. And I'm still feeling, it's just the pits to be alive. And that's how a lot of people feel. So if you're that person listening right now, by the way, just know it's okay. We've got you. And by the end of this episode, maybe you'll get some new tools and techniques to make it a little better. So how do we actually get to gratitude? Well, for me, here's my little mic drop moment. It's really easy. I think it's those who have been to the darkest places see the light that much brighter. And it's easier to kind of build yourself up through personal development when you've crashed everything to the ground and you're completely out of options. So, I call it the gift of desperation. And I had that in my teens and 20s when I became a sick and suffering, hopeless and helpless drug addict. So that's my mic drop moment, because if you saw me today, you might not believe that, but that was the God's honest truth. I was addicted. And by the way, I came out of the womb needing a cocktail. I just, it's like, and the why of it all, I don't know. I mean, I think even just having a nice upbringing with loving parents doesn't mean that you're automatically happy, right? And I think in my case, my mom being so beloved by America gave me some feelings of being less than. It's like when that's your mom, how do you ever think you're going to live up to that? It seemed overwhelming. And so I think I just felt so like I could never be her that I just took a left turn. I was like, you know what? I'm not going to go get my negative attention this way, or I'm just going to exit stage left and numb out. Whatever the thought was that compelled me to fall in with the wrong crowd. In the 90s, I fell in with kind of the underground rave scene when that was starting, and I just went all out. So I got very deep into drugs and alcohol. And in my 20s, I pulled myself out of that by engaging heavily in recovery and a recovery lifestyle. It was in recovery that I learned 2 things. Number one, I basically discovered wellness. You and I were talking before we hit record here about Barry's boot camp. I mean, Eric, I will tell you, everything I was looking for on the dance floor, I found on the floor of boutique fitness at Barry's boot camp, at Soul Cycle. It's like that tribal energy and that communal rhythm and moving to the beat and the sense of belonging. It was all there. I was like, I didn't have to kill myself for the last 13 years trying to find it. Who knew it was right here? But, better late than never. I discovered the wellness thing. And then the other thing I learned in recovery was this new perspective on mindset. And a lot of it had to do with taking accountability, waking up every day with intention and putting my head on the pillow every night, feeling like I had integrity and I was responsible for my actions. I did the right thing. And then finally, gratitude. I learned about having an attitude of gratitude, and that is the heartbeat of happiness. I just didn't know that before. And I also thought that life was happening to me. And I just felt like I was the victim in many circumstances. And when I learned that like I had a part in a lot of the things that had gone on and nothing was happening to me, that was just a perspective I was choosing. And in fact, everything happens for me if I choose to look at it that way. And wouldn't you know it, when you start, like attracts like, when you start operating from this place of abundance and love and gratitude, you're a magnet. And all of a sudden, my whole life got better. So we'll go over the publicist thing, I'm sure, later on in this podcast, but I'm just kind of double clicking on some of these as a quick point. I was a publicist for about 10 years. By proxy of getting better in recovery, my PR career got bigger and better. But at the same time, I had this Instagram that took off because I started sharing about all of this stuff I was learning, the fitness, the mindset, all of that on a Instagram handle I at that time called NYC Fit Fam, which was my original handle. My handle today is my name, Jamie Hess. And that became the springboard to act two of my entire career in life. So today I'm a media personality, podcaster, keynote speaker, and coach. And I coach on gratitudeology, which is kind of this gratitude-based mindset. I'm a mindset optimization coach. And I also teach a course called Brand Ninja, where I help people essentially do what I did, which is lean into their passion on social media and then work with brands and kind of help the brand amplify and also make money themselves as a byproduct of just sharing that passion on social media.
That is amazing. And sharing that passion and also being of service to others. I think a core through line of, all the things that you're currently doing is, how do you give more than you receive? How do you make that impact on those people? Yes, of course, we're here to make a living, but at the same time, can we make a living as well as do good and give back at the same time? And you're proof positive of that. It's very interesting hearing you speak and also getting prepared for this conversation. When I, again, in terms of sharing, so when I first graduated college, I'm a kid. I grew up on Long Island. I went to school in the Midwest. I come back to New York City. The world is my oyster. At the same time, I felt very anxious, and anxiety can lead to a lot of different things. And I just remember talking to someone very close to me, who's in active recovery. He said point blank, write down what you're grateful for. I'm like, well, I'm grateful for my, the clothes that I wear and, the things that I have. He's like, no. Things that people that can't be taken away from you. So, okay. So my family, my friends, my health, my education, things that are indelible, that are a core part of me. And then he said, and he recited this line that I constantly go back to is, I want what I have and I have what I need. And I thought, and I got very grounded in that moment. I want what I have and I have what I need. And I'm like, that is like hit me between the eyes, maybe not then when it was said when I was in my early 20s, but now as I've gotten older, and I think you can relate to this, as I've gotten older and I started a family and I have kids, and I want to demonstrate, great examples for them. It's about this appreciation, about this gratitude. And I think what's fascinating, and I think this should not be, it can't be overstated enough, is life is happening to me, but not actually life is happening for me. And there's that lightness, that groundedness, that appreciation that comes out of that. So I think that is incredible. And in terms of those conversations, I'd love for you to speak to some of those conversations. You're working with folks to build their social profile, their personal brand, and to hopefully those personal brands can then start working with actual brands and partnerships and create content and build businesses together. But what are some of the things besides the dollars and cents that you can really put your finger on in terms of the impact that's coming out of this and out of the work that you're doing?
Oh my gosh. I mean, do you know what a gift social media is? We all complain about it a lot, and there's plenty to complain about, right?
Mm-hmm.
Plenty going wrong. But what a gift that every person can, and this is why I say every person is a personal brand. Look,
Mm-hmm.
the year of our Lord 2025, if you don't think you're a personal brand, you're just looking at it wrong. I don't care if you're a solopreneur like I am and you're building a personal brand for the sake of being an influencer, or you work in sales, the sales department at Microsoft, or in IT
Mm-hmm.
at blah, blah, blah. You are a personal brand. I'll say it a little louder for the people in the back. Okay. Every day you wake up, you decide what are you putting forward to the world? And it's not just the clothes that you wear. It's not just what you put out on social media, but it's every day asking yourself this question of, what are my missions? What are my values? Am I living in line with that? That is your brand ethos. What are my family's missions and values? We as a family need to come up with our personal brand, our ideals.
Mm-hmm.
What do we believe in? And it starts literally as tactically as the clothes you put on your body. And even, are you getting dressed every day? I coach a lot of women, and part of their problem why they don't feel like themselves is because they're working hybrid or working from home, and they're just not even putting the effort into getting dressed every day like they used to. And that affects your self-esteem. So that's number one, is like just coming forward as the you-iest you and figuring out what that means to you. Now, beyond that, so for me, I believe in helping people get grounded in wellness, in mindset, in a feeling of abundance, and a feeling of I can, and the power of you, and all of this, right? Like igniting their spark and reclaiming their flame and all of this. So how do I then do that? Now, I think that influencer has a bad name. All right. And for good reason. There are plenty of people out there, and doing air quotes, influencers, right? That are doing brand deals. They're holding up a tube of toothpaste saying, buy this toothpaste, and they never use the toothpaste. And shame on them. That's a cheap deal. And that's why people think of influencer partnerships as cheap, right? Or shallow. Here's the deal. If you look at it that way, then that's what it's going to be. But if you look at it all and you kind of take it one click out, and you're truly geeking out on the brand partnership, and you're asking yourself, like, how can I use this partnership to make people's lives better?
Mm-hmm.
I'll give you a great example of something I'm doing right now. And this is the type of stuff I teach in Brand Ninja, where it's a little more 360, because I want to make an impact on people's lives. So I had fallen a little bit off of my fitness game, right? I started as a fitness influencer. So that's even hard to admit. And that holds a whole other, set of things. Ambition had taken the driver's seat. So my fitness and wellness is in the passenger seat. And sometimes it gets in the back seat, right? Because I'm like up really late and I'm working and whatever. So I was like, okay, I need a goal. I need a goal to get back on track. And when I need a goal with fitness, I usually sign up for a race, like a 5K, 10K. That's like a good benchmark. So I ended up partnering with a brand, a charity that really wanted to get the word out about their charity. And I decided I would run this race. I'm doing Run Disney on April 5th on behalf of a charity. This charity is called NMDP. It's a blood cancer charity. They do work around cell therapy, research. Long story short, so now I've been engaged by this brand. So I have a reason for being. I'm making an income. I'm getting back out on the pavement, and now I'm amplifying the brand. But then I'm like, wait, I can get my followers involved in this. Like, I bet there's so many other people that would love like some help, some accountability, some motivation to get back out on the pavement. So I'm like, I'm going to put a call to action. If my followers donate $40 to my fundraising page for this charity, you see how it's now win, win,
Mm-hmm.
win. They're going to be part of my virtual run club. I'll send them a training plan. I'll give them shout outs on social. Then I'm like, wait a second. I bet you there's other brands that would like to be a part of this really inspirational moment. So I start selling it into other brands where I'm saying, hey, if you pay X amount of dollars, I'm going to do weekly gift giveaways to all the people who are participating. So now it gives them more impetus. Okay, if you get back out on the pavement, not only are you going to feel good, not only am I going to give you a shout out, not only are you benefiting this charity, but you can win these cool earbuds. You can win this cool, the viral Dubai chocolate I'm going to give away, and a case of these energy drinks and the smart jewelry thing. You see what I'm doing here? I'm creating value for myself in this program. This is how I make a living, and there's nothing wrong with that, right?
Mm-hmm.
I should be getting paid. I'm doing a ton of work, right?
Yes.
Creating content, talking to all the brands. I'm doing all the mail outs of all these gifts to people. Like, I'm literally running around like a chicken with my head cut off, but everyone's benefiting. So I'm always looking to do things like that, where I know my core nucleus, the brand DNA, is fitness and wellness and mindset. And then what's orbiting around that is this whole program where everyone's winning. So I look at influencer and content creation as that. How can I help the most people, myself included, because there's no reason I shouldn't be helping myself,
Right.
and spread the best message?
That is that's incredible to be able to layer on, the onion. And again, you're getting back on the pavement, because again, your health fitness game is lagging a little bit because of, and not for any bad reason. It's, again, you're doing a lot of different things. But then you said, okay, let me set out a goal. Here's your goal: Run Disney, charity, layering on different brands, getting other people involved, your followers, which is tremendous. And so it's looking at, again, to your point, looking at it from a 60-degree angle. But before you even get to that point, I think there's a lot of reticence, myself included, on okay, I'm trying something new, whether it's creating content, working with brands. What's your advice to those listeners who are like, yeah, this all sounds well and good, Jamie, but like, how do I get over that fear or that
Totally.
apprehension?
Such a great question. I just got off the phone right before you with somebody that I was talking to about signing up for Brand Ninja. And I said, that's the whole reason why I made this into a course. Because, of course, she was a freelance journalist. She was a journalist. I've known her for a million years. When I was a publicist, I used to pitch her, and she was a big journalist. And then she had a baby and worked a little less. And now she's doing freelance journalism. But let's be honest, freelance journalism, these days you're getting paid like $150 an article. You can't raise a family on $150, right?
Hmm.
So I said to her, girl, you are a beauty expert. She works in the beauty space. You have a storied past as a beauty expert for all of these big publications, I mean, major magazines. You have a beautiful Instagram that you're working on building and growing, and she's getting there. You should be working with brands. Like, if a freelance gig is going to pay you $150,
Hmm.
but a brand might pay you $1,500 or maybe $15,000, depending on the situation. Why wouldn't you be striving for that? And she just said, it's just so overwhelming. It's new to me. And I don't really understand exactly how to go about it. And also, would they pay me? God, I'm going to do all this work and I don't even know if it's going to work. And where do I even really start? And I had to find all the gatekeepers of the brands and I had to figure out my pitch and I have to. I said, yeah, totally. Sounds hard. That's why you hire a coach. And by the way, I think everybody should have a coach. Coaches have coaches. I have coaches,
Hmm.
right? Like I'm a coach and I wouldn't trust a coach who doesn't have a coach, by the way. Because everybody should be doing the work. But so like I teach a 6-week course where each week we're breaking down one little part of it. So because when you look at it all in and you're like, I have to do all of these things, it just stays on your to-do list forever, but you never do it because it's just too much work. So if week 1 is putting together your little media kit or a one sheet, so you know who the F you are in the context of this and who you're pitching, what you're pitching. Week number 2 is figuring out the brands. Week number 3 is finding the gatekeepers. And I help coach you through that each week and give you a little 30-minute blip of homework so that you're doing it in little increments. Doesn't that sound easier? Then it's a 1-hour time investment a week versus like trying to sit down on a weekend and ignore your kids and figure this out. And it's
Hmm.
like, you have that red string thing that you used to see in those old detective movies where it's like, this connects to this, and I just don't know. If you have somebody walk you through it, it just makes everything a lot easier. So that's my like little sell for my coaching program, by the way. And you can find me at meetjamiehess.com if you're interested in learning more, or find me on Instagram. But also the shorter answer, Eric, is that you just have imposter syndrome. Okay. And by the way, everybody has imposter syndrome. If you think you can't, I don't believe you. Like if you're listening to this podcast right now, you're somebody who cares about personal development.
Hmm.
You want to get better. You're already out there doing the work. You're doing the work right now. You're smart. You've got it. And I think you're telling yourself you can't when you really can. You see, I will say this. My toxic trait is I pretty much believe I could do anything. I don't know where I got that from. I truly don't. But when you go into things with that attitude and you just kind of say yes and then figure it out, but truly figure it out. I
Hmm.
mean, you're not a scam artist. You got to produce. If you get the thing, close the deal, you got to then produce.
Right.
But I pretty much know that everything is figure outable. And when you work off that premise,
Hmm.
life becomes a lot more fun.
Absolutely. I figure outable, in my late 50s. I wish it was like my late 20s or earlier when I, came to that revelation. Like, I'm not saying I would have gone to Harvard. I'm not saying that, but, I think there would have been a lot more ease of me trying to approach new things without having that reticence or that apprehension. I can't do it. It's funny. I had Craig from Hello Products and now Happy Coffee, who said there's no fear of missing out. There's only fear of not trying. And that sort of like mind shift. I'm like, huh, I may not get it on the first time, but if I at least try, I'm gonna feel a lot better about myself because then I can hopefully figure it out. Because like as a coach, Jamie, you're helping folks. Again, when we're living our life, it's very hard to pull ourselves from the outside looking into ourselves to figure out, okay, what are our blind spots? So from at least, and correct me if I'm wrong, but it sounds like you're helping these folks who you're working with really identify those blind spots and make them less, let's say, daunting or trepidatious because of the fact that you're able to break it down into snackable bites and that they can do the work over time instead of, hey, you got to do hours upon hours of work right now in order to execute and do that thing that you are scared to do.
Yeah. And even if you flip that, not just their blind spots, but what are you really good at? I
Hmm.
help them lean into their strong spots, right?
Hmm.
So we lean into the strong spots, and then the blind spots are just things you don't understand yet. And so, ask questions and learn. I love being the dumbest person in the room. Like I want to surround myself with people who could help me and teach me and grow. One of my newbie entrepreneurial mistakes was when I left. So to back up, we haven't really touched on this yet, but I was in public relations for 17 years,
Hmm.
all in. I started in when I was at college at NYU working for Lizzie Grubman, who's one of the biggest publicists in New York. Yep.
Yep. Yep.
And
Yep.
I worked for all the PR mavens. And then the last 6 years of my career, I was the SVP of a company called the Narrative Group, awesome company. And I ran the book of business on McDonald's, General Motors. I also represented W Hotels Worldwide, Barry's Boot Camp, LinkedIn, the list
Hmm.
goes on. And that was an incredible, I mean, I wouldn't give that up for anything. And I didn't leave that job, by the way. I didn't leave that job because I didn't like the job.
Hmm.
I left that job because I saw what else was possible. And I started realizing what I was really good at. I had this Instagram account that kind of took off almost by accident. I call myself an accidental influencer. I'm 44, my husband's 64. We were not trying to be influencers. Okay. That was not a
Right.
job when I went to college. But he proposed to me on a treadmill at Barry's Boot Camp. And it kind of started our public facing persona as like this fit couple. And we just kind of ran with it. I started to realize that that was my strong spot. I love sharing about fitness and also the stuff I learned in recovery, which was like how to think better, be better, do better,
Hmm.
thrive, and all of that. But when I finally left my corporate job to pursue this Instagram thing full time, I made this newbie entrepreneurial mistake, which was because I had been a publicist, which basically requires you to be a Swiss Army knife. I tried to do everything myself. I'm like, I don't need a publicist or a manager or an agent or anybody to help
Hmm.
me because I know how to do everything. And like, yeah, I do. I could do the pitch deck. I could get on the Zoom sales calls. I could manage it all. I could do it all. But that's no way to scale. And you're not learning. Like if you're not talking to people and smart people and maybe using like third-party vendors or resources that have specialties in certain spaces or people who are working with other people like you. So they're like actively gaining best practices in real time and key insights on the industry that you're in. I just think you're missing out. So as I've grown and scaled my business over the last 6 years, I've gotten much better about, as we say in recovery, taking the cotton out of my ears and putting it in my mouth, right? Like shutting the hell up and listening for a change because I love learning from other people. I think that's so valuable.
Yeah, learning from other people, understanding your strong suits, understanding when to delegate, because perhaps again your time is better spent, on those pitch decks and talking to the clients versus doing some of the other tasks that you may not be familiar with. Not saying you don't have a basic understanding, but perhaps your time is better suited. I think it sounds like a lot of the mindset or mind shift changes. It's really more of a semantics change. It's not that you can't do it. It's perhaps your time is better spent doing something that you're really good at.
Look, I sorry to interrupt you, but
No,
just to
please.
say this, like my first hire was a bookkeeper because I realized I was terrible. I wasn't terrible at bookkeeping. I hated it. And it was taking me a couple hours and I was getting in my head because it's not my specialty. And I was like, okay. Bookkeepers aren't cheap, right? I think I spend like $850 a month on my bookkeeper. It's not cheap.
Not cheap.
That's a big spend,
Yeah.
right? And most people spend more as like a big company, but I'm a small company. So I hired through service and I love my bookkeeper. She's been with me for 6 years. In those couple of hours that I was spending every month pulling my hair out doing my accounting, could I be making more than $850 if I had those hours back? And the answer is, yeah, I could probably make $10,000 if I had those hours back. So that's an easy one for me.
Hmm.
So that's how I'm always evaluating. You know what I mean? It's a simple math equation.
It is a simple math equation. It's funny when he said that, like, can I make more than $850 a week, a month, to that you are paying your bookkeeper? And yes, and the answer is resounding yes. I remember I was watching Ryan Serhant when he started, starting to scale his business. And his concept that I thought was brilliant is like, how do I buy back my time? So he hired a driver. So like in between those meetings, instead of having to deal with subways or waiting for Ubers, he's able to do a lot more work in between showings and talking to clients than had he again I had to start from scratch and get on a subway or go to or wait for an Uber. So it's really, yeah, understanding the value of your time. How much is your
And
time?
making it, we gamify it. My husband and I used to do this all the time. I would say, oh, should I take the subway or take an Uber? I have to go from this meeting to this meeting. And once again, well, how much is the Uber going to cost? Well, it's New York City. It's not cheap. It's like $42.
Yeah.
How much is the subway? It's $2.50 or through whatever it is now. Okay. Can you make more than $42 in that Uber ride? So now I have a goal. I'm not getting in the Uber and scrolling Instagram. Now I better get on a damn phone call, right? I better send some emails, because now if I'm taking that Uber, if that's my reasoning, it's going to inspire. And we used to do that all the time. My husband and I'm very lucky. I love when there's this Instagram reel that's going around that's like asking a billionaire the most important advice he could give, one piece. And he said, the most important choice you'll ever make in your life is who you choose as your spouse. I just believe that to my core. My husband and I work every day to make each other the best version of ourselves. We challenge each other. We help each other. We geek out on each other's businesses. Like last night, he was up, we sat in bed, and I was having a hard time getting this project done. He was like, come on, babe, open your computer. I'm not going to bed until you get this done. I've got you. And he worked through it with me. We did and we try to keep it like reasonable. He's like 30 minutes. If we knock out 30 minutes on it every night this week, we'll get it done. And he's right. And then it wasn't so overwhelming, and I have a partner in it, and we do that all the time. But I think a lot of people are scared to talk about finances with their spouse. It feels heavy, but when you do it like that, you know what I mean? Okay, let's evaluate this. Yeah, make yourself comfortable. Take that Uber, but you got to make those $42. So, hey, I want an accountability email at the end of the Uber. Who did you talk to? What'd you do? Who'd you outreach? We play that game all the time, and that's cool.
It is cool. It's like, you're gamifying it and you're holding each other accountable. It's funny. I had exited startup founders, Cass and Mike from Buddy Media on the show recently, and they were talking about how well their marriage has thrived not just from a marriage standpoint solely, but also their business partners. They co-founded multiple businesses together, and one thing that they really pressed upon was the complementary skills. Like Mike was all about vision and sales, and Cass was all about operations and people and human resources. So do you have a similar dynamic with your husband where it's complementary, so you're not potentially butting heads or causing friction?
Big time. I am a geek on I love doing proposals, pitch decks. I love big vision and big sales and bringing value and figuring all of that out. And we're both the relationships guy. That's what we do, because I was in public relations and he's in music, and he's in the music industry. He's a CEO of a music marketing company and radio promo. He works with all the biggest DJs in the world. Both of us are relationships people. So we foster those relationships together. We water the flowers. We'll always, join each other at the dinner or the thing, or if, next week I have to be in Fort Lauderdale for almost a week for business.
Oh, wow.
Relationships based. And then the following week he has to be in Miami for a week, and neither of us bat an eyelash. It's not like, oh, I have to take care of the kids by myself. No, babe, if it's business, go. You got it. But I will stay up all night and do a pitch deck for him or some sort of a proposal. And then he alternatively, he's got many skills, but I would say what he does with me, I get overwhelmed, frazzled, and frantic. And what he does is take a breath with me. All you can do is one thing at a time. What is the first thing we have to do? Let's do that one step. And I'm going to hold your hand until you finish it. He helps bring me back to earth, because I'm like the Tasmanian devil and he's like Buddha.
Wow, that is amazing. So again, you have that offsetting emotional stability, which is great. Especially when there's times where you do get frazzled or frustrated. You don't want it to affect the output. Again, with your work that you're doing. In terms of that evolution, you're doing so many different things. If you had to look into a crystal ball, what would and let's say you and I talk. Today is March 12th of 2025, and we talk March 12th of 2026. Where do you want to be?
A combination of Mel Robbins, Amy Porterfield, Jenna Kutcher, and Maria Forleo. And if you don't know who those people are, look them all up. They're incredible women who have built brands around helping other women, but people as well, find their confidence, build their own businesses, and take control of their own destiny. And that's what I look at myself as. Well, I have two prongs to my message. So I teach gratitudeology, and that is the name of my podcast and my upcoming book, which will be released on Quarto Publishing in Thanksgiving 2026 is when my book comes out.
Excellent.
And then I also have Brand Ninja, which is this personal branding exercise. It's all the same thing, Eric. And so for me, I believe that stepping into and developing your personal brand is wellness. And the reason is because most people, I have now coached hundreds, if not thousands of women,
Mm-hmm.
coach primarily women, men as well, especially in Brand Ninja, but I coach so many women. And so many women just feel like they've lost their identity, especially after COVID, especially after kids. Just they lose sight of who they are,
Mm-hmm.
especially if they've left or taken a step back from that full-time job. And then they kind of lose their confidence and their pride. It's like, oh, I know I should feel proud of being a mom, but I kind of lost who I was. Like, so many people are having that, like, who am I? Where am I? There's so much instability in just the professional economy, the job market.
Mm-hmm.
I help people understand who the F they are when they wake up in the morning. I help them define that. And I believe preparation is 99% of the game. You don't just intuitively know your brand. You just don't. I mean, then you're just surviving, right? You're not thriving. You're just kind of existing. But when you wake up with intention, and you wake up with this mindset of like, this is who I want to bring forth to the world. This is the mark I want to make. This is the energy I want to take up in the space that I felt, the container that I embody here on planet Earth. That is an exciting way to go through life. So to me, that's personal brand. That's Brand Ninja. That's gratitudeology. It's being grateful for and embodying the you-iest version of you. And it's helping people wake up a little less scared and a little more excited. And at the end of and by the way, and the third part of that is plugging that in, right? Because a brand is only a brand in the context of how it's seen by others. Plug it in, right?
Right.
And turn it on. So you're making money off of it. That to me is the most exciting way to inspire people. And so my brand is all about that.
It's empowering, it's impacting, it's really helping folks really articulate, who they are, like the US you. And it's funny, when I was listening to the Glozell episode, and she was talking about her trials and tribulations with it was Jay Leno, and there was where else Jay Leno, like the Tonight Show didn't want her back, recording people outside the theater, and she just like if she like tripled down on herself after the fact, which is just amazing. And what also I took away from that is, and you mentioned this, is that most people would give up 2 steps before her stardom on YouTube, right? And I thought that was very powerful.
Glozell, so just to be clear, Glozell went and vlogged before vlogging was a thing in the line at the Tonight Show for 600 consecutive days. And this is how short-sighted they were. Not only did they not see what they had there, because she had become a well-loved vlogger on YouTube, which she was hardly even paying attention to. She was not even trying to do that. Kind of like me, right? She's in between my husband and my generation. She's, I believe, like early 50s. She didn't even notice that she was getting millions of views on YouTube.
Mm-hmm.
She was kind of putting her videos there as like a receptacle because she wanted to get on the Tonight Show. She wanted to be a comedian on the Tonight Show. They ignored her. But meanwhile, she was building a brand for herself by proxy of doing this. 600 consecutive days. And instead of offering her a job, as they should have, because they had nobody vlogging, do you know what they did? They banned her.
Right.
They banned her from coming there. Now, let me ask you a question. Glozell's big video that probably went the most viral is like her cinnamon challenge one. She has many that have come close to that, but like that video alone received 60 million views. How many viewers do you think the Tonight Show has, Eric?
Not 60 million.
Not 60 million. I can tell you that right now. Okay. I think it's like under 10 million. So the reality is they just didn't see what they had. She was actually the visionary. But if she had let that hurt knock her down, which many people would have, she would have missed out on this opportunity, which, by the way, let's press fast forward on that. She became such a well-known influencer on YouTube that a couple of years ago, she was asked, well, when he was in office, she was asked to interview then President Barack Obama. So, I mean, if that's not an example of sticking to your guns because you know that you're worth it, I don't know what is.
Yes. I think this is the perfect place to stop this conversation, because I think this is amazing. I hope, and I know, not hope, I know people will take a lot of great nuggets and insights from this conversation, Jamie. I will include your website, your Instagram handle, wherever folks can find you and follow you to learn more about coaching and the podcast, and really helping those folks become the you-iest you. I hope you trademark that. That's a great phrase, because you're right. If I was in a similar situation, I'd probably, you know what, F it, move on to the next. not like, no, I'm going to double. And this is before self-development and self-help and emotional intelligence became topics of conversation. And to have the fortitude to just, triple down on yourself, I think that's just a testament of really knowing who you are. And if you don't know, or you have an idea of who you think you are in terms of your core values and what you want to do and your aspirations, but still need more clarity, talk to Jamie. That's going to be
Thank you.
my
And
parting message.
we have a phrase in recovery. I'll just leave it with this, which is, don't quit 1 second before the miracle happens. And so if you're listening right now, your miracle could be just around the corner. Don't stop.
Don't stop. Excellent. Thank you, Jamie.
Thank you so much.
Yes.